Hello everyone, just a quick call of action today before the guest video. If you could please like, subscribe and share, that would be much appreciated. Most people who watch these videos aren't subscribed to the channel, so if you could really do that and like the video if you enjoy this guest video, so I can get more guests on the show and get the RBL Talk podcast going worldwide. Hope you enjoyed today's video. It's that time again in the show where I welcome a special guest. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, Justin. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you, Rory. As people that do watch the podcast that you are from, which we'll get into very shortly, I've watched your podcast all the time. So please introduce yourself and who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on first and foremost. I'm Rory Petre. One of the hosts from the Bundesliga show that comes from over the bar. We're an English speaking Bundesliga YouTube and podcast. We do shows all through the week, all through the season. Mainly specializing in post match or post match weekend reviews. We do fantasy football as well, which is huge amounts of fun, and we do some predictions as well. So we're on YouTube. If you just search for Over the Bar, nice and easy to find us, and we're on all good audio platforms as well.
So how did you come about supporting your club? For those that don't know, Rory, my guest here today, is a VfB Stuttgart supporter.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, unlike maybe some of your guests previously, Justin, it's maybe not a romantic story in the sense that, when I really first started doing the show and particularly just covering Bundesliga stuff from a sports journalism point of view, we then kind of went a little bit further down the line and started doing the show. Therefore, I needed to know a lot more about the Bundesliga. The season now we kicks off the YouTube version of the Bundesliga show. It was the first season that Stuttgart had been re-promoted back into the Bundesliga. During the early part of that season, I already knew Stuttgart as a historical club and a very well known one across Germany. However, I think I was at the point of doing the show, knowing lots of teams without really having a favoured team yet. So I was like, well, if I'm going to pick one, I probably need to kind of figure one out. And I just fell in love with the way that Stuttgart approached that season. We're so, exciting to watch, great going forwards, kind of a carefree attitude maybe when it came to defending, where we'll score more than you. Obviously that season they came roughly 8th or 9th. And it was a good way to kickstart being back in the top division, and just kind of followed it from there really. So I think my affinity and love for the club has grown as I've learned more about them and what the club has been doing, and obviously learning more about the history as well. But that's kind of how I landed on VfB.
So you said that you were a reporter there. Are you still a football journalist as well, or?
No, it was more of a side hustle, side project at the time, away from my professional career, which is nothing to do with sports, unfortunately. It's kind of what I wanted to go back to it because it's pretty much what I studied at university. So I tried to push myself to get back into it, and therefore landed on Over the Bar, and they were very kind to let me do articles for them. Then picked up a few little bits and bobs here and there. But then that kind of mixed in with the YouTube show kind of kicking off, and that myself and Mark, the other main host of the show, got a bit more serious about doing the show in general. Writing was a lot harder for me to do, seriously. I had my own website and bits and bobs like that because, formerly my tag on socials was the Village Footballer, which I've moved away from now because I used to do kind of local level football reporting as well. So I thought, well, I'm not really doing that. I'm not doing writing. I'll have a rebrand and, solely focus on, content and kind of doing Bundesliga stuff, really.
Bundesliga Rory has actually a very good ring to it, and I actually like the new name as well. So,
Many thanks.
did you enjoy writing and doing reporting for, especially for local clubs and things like that?
Yeah, I loved it. It was really nice because when I played football at a semi-serious level, I kind of wrote on behalf of that kind of league structure, and therefore it gained a lot of traction. It was quite popular at the time. I'd then do match reports for my own club and things like that. So that was, like you say, the local side of things, and it was great fun to do. But again, whilst I took a kind of backward seat in terms of me taking football as seriously. Now I just play on Saturday mornings for, the pure joy of it. So again, that side of it started to take a back seat, but really enjoyed my time. It was great fun. And as per, doing writing or content from a Bundesliga point of view, you meet loads of great people as well, which is what it's all about.
Absolutely. If you don't mind me asking, what position do you play?
I tried to play left back, maybe not as exciting, more of an old-fashioned traditional left back in the sense that I'm actually capable of defending, unlike some of the modern-day fullbacks that we see these days.
So no nonsense defending and attacking is a second.
Pretty much. I scored a very rare goal just pre-Christmas, but it was a cross. It wasn't on purpose at all. So, yeah, it was a highlight for me, but they don't come very often.
Would you claim it as your own stuff? You meant to do it?
Well, I wind assisted. I think I have to give most of the credit to. But yeah, definitely my goal. But yeah, I got a lot of stick for that.
So have you always been a supporter of VfB Stuttgart?
Well, no, not really. Like I was, alluding to my history with the Bundesliga. Growing up was, more of a side thing because my main team that I've followed from birth is Man United. So I would know more about the Bundesliga through looking, at European competitions and stuff like that. And knowing those big clubs, and obviously Stuttgart throughout that time, early 2000s and things like that were still successful and having a good time of it. But yeah, my main affinity to the club has been circa 2020. I think you probably, if you had to put a date on it.
So I've asked this for every single person that comes onto the show when we go into the team side of things, which we'll do now. And it's always, who is your club's manager and what your style of play is? But a lot of the regular listeners of the RBL Talk podcast would know who the manager of VfB Stuttgart is. So for anyone that doesn't know, could you just give me a little bit of detail on how he is and how he's going and what your thoughts are from a point of perspective from a Stuttgart point of view?
Yeah, for sure. Our current incumbent head coach is Sebastian Hoeneß. Part of a very famous family. The surname, of course, which kind of for viewers and people who I'm sure many people do know, but Sebastian is son of Dieter, a former German football international, and the nephew of Uli Hoeneß as well, who's a former president of Bayern Munich. Has a big reputation to live up to. He's very much making a big splash in VfB, and there have already been many, links for Sebastian to maybe make that supposed step up and move on to Bayern or something like that. It was a discussion point, last summer whilst Bayern were going from head coach to head coach, trying to find someone to manage them before landing on Vincent Kompany, of course. So that was a bit of a worrying time, but he's arrived into the role when Stuttgart were in a whole heap of a mess, at the bottom of the table. Unfortunately, the dam had very much, busted under Pellegrino Matarazzo, who was a huge fan of, who's obviously, went on to do the Hoffenheim job. And again, unfortunately, didn't really work out for him there. But yeah, he did well to guide VfB away from relegation 2 seasons ago via the playoffs. And then last season was this just crazy ride for many VfB fans, and like myself, who are new to supporting them in a sense, was one of the most fond memories you could probably have, as they on the last day of the season pipped Bayern into second place, had a great run in the Pokal. So yeah, Hoeneß has come in and don't want to necessarily say simplified things, but generally speaking, plays with a back four. We'll have two pivot midfielders, so two sixes, which are kind of terminology that we have thrown around these days. Two wide men, and then sometimes a central attacking midfielder, or playing up up top with two strikers. Was particularly effective last season when we had that combination of say Undav and Guirassy, which was a great watch. So I think the way that Hoeneß has implemented a style of play has been really impressive. Obviously, you see pretty much every player that comes into the squad and starting 11 has the same demands put on him, in terms of you have to be very, very comfortable on the ball, and you have to make those passes and play that passing style. One thing was kind of half notable at the start of this season was seeing someone like Jeff Chabot try to fit into that style of play, and we kind of saw him struggling initially, which he's got better at. The big central defender from Köln. But yeah, so that kind of passing style before maybe kind of speeding things up in the final third, having those nice interchanging passes, or of course, using that wing play. We've had a lot of joy with relationships down the left-hand side, particularly in recent seasons, the likes of Bjorn Sousa and now Maxi Mittelstädt, whipping in those crosses for big target men, whether that be Sasa Kalajdzic or Guirassy, or now I suppose you put the tag on Demirovic as well. So yeah, that's very much the way that it feels to me, as if we've been set up for a little while, and the success has been for Hoeneß as a head coach has been excellent. Hopefully, the second half of this season, the Rückrunde can maybe be a bit more consistent. But I think maybe what we'll talk about a little later is expectations and things like that as well. But yeah, he's done a fab job.
Has he made any history currently at VfB Stuttgart in his short tenure?
Well, I think the history really, I guess, is probably second place being Stuttgart's highest finish in many moons. The stabilization of the club, getting themselves into the UEFA Champions League, obviously another historic thing. Returning to Europe is absolutely massive. I think just returning to any form of Europe, anyone would have snapped your hand off for, but returning to the highest table, which Leipzig are very comfortable with these days, is just something that was so unexpected. And it obviously, you kind of thought about it last season more and more and more. The closer you got, you never realized how much you wanted it until that point. And yeah, having the top five qualify was something nice as well, which took pressure off. But the fact that Stuttgart did it in second place anyway was absolutely legendary in my eyes.
He also beat us for the first time as well. Unfortunately, for our perspective, the 5-2 win in January as well was the first time Stuttgart ever beat RB Leipzig in any competition that I know of. So there's that too. And finally, what's your first your own impressions on him?
He's a very calm and calculated man. You don't see him getting too flustered from match to match. I think one thing that I really like about him is his proactiveness during matches. That is, seeing something, he doesn't wait to make a change. That's a frustration that I've had with, for example, Man United managers that have been in role in the last few years or two, and seeing that proactiveness to change a game. I think, just a few examples already this season come to mind where he's sprung a sub, or even just a a realization that something actually isn't working, and being man enough to say, you know what, I've messed up within half an hour or something like that before he gets too critical in a match. So yeah, having someone who's humble enough to realize a mistake early enough to make a difference, I think is a real great quality of his, and a good quality for head coaches in general to have.
Who are your club's star players or personal favourites?
Well, yeah, we do have quite a number of different star players, names that have maybe now become star players rather than your traditional ones. Obviously, the main man from a Stuttgart point of view right now is Deniz Undav, obviously the striker who played a fantastic season for us last season. Whilst he was on loan from Brighton, very much made a name for himself in that partnership with Guirassy, of course, kind of playing second fiddle in a sense. But yeah, very much the pressure and the starlight has fallen upon him, although he's been injured a great deal of this season, which he's been a great miss. The fact that we see him fit and ready to go for 2025 is a huge boost, not only because of his goals, his all-round general play, the way that he links up. One thing that VfB have kind of struggled for initially before Voltemada came in was this kind of link-up play, because Demirovic was very much being isolated up front and didn't have that kind of in-between man that Undav was, and that's something that we'll look forward to having back. And yeah, Undav has since become a German national player. And yeah, he's done great work. So that's definitely a name that I think people would hopefully be familiar with. Another star name, again, probably one that's just come about so recently as well, is maybe someone like Jamie Leveling. He's had a great tail end of last season, and 2024-25 season again, unfortunately has stuttered a little bit because of injury also. So the fact that he's also back for 2025 is super important. The wide man, came from very much an unexpected signing, and worked his way into the team. At one point, it was looking rather unlikely that Stuttgart would even bother to sign him permanently, but he finished last season really well. Again, as he's also become a German national team player. And it's a great, rags to riches story in a sense that he's, become such an important player for us. And in terms of the favourite player, he's one of our star players as well, but maybe doesn't get the headlines. Is probably someone like Angelo Stiller, the central midfielder who plays, in a partnership with club captain Atakan Karatsor, who's equally as important. But I just think Stiller is such a classy player. Very neat and tidy on the ball. Again, a player that was signed with, a great deal of potential, but not to much fanfare, because, Sebastian Hoeneß had worked with him at Hoffenheim, knew him as a player. That's another trick that we've seen recently from what he's just done with Brun Larsen, of course. So if he can do the same with him, that'd be great. But yeah, very tidy on the ball, great passing range. Can actually, when he actually gets forward, he has a decent finish on him as well. Great leadership qualities as well. Can fill in different positions. We've seen him play centre back when needed also, and maybe doesn't get as much, of the plaudits, but he's a great player, and I love him so much. And he's crucial to what VfB do when they do it well.
What's the most memorable moment you've had as a supporter of VfB Stuttgart?
Well, there's probably been a few already, to be fair. And I think probably the escape from relegation, 21-22. Obviously, that went down to the wire. So the last regular season match, Stuttgart were playing Köln and needed to leapfrog Hertha Berlin by winning on the day, and they were 1-0 down, got an equaliser, and were still needing a winner to do the job. And it came to a corner, which was eventually put into the back of the net by Wataru Endo, one of our former captains, who's now in the Premier League. Putting it home to sends the home fans into absolute bedlam. Such really, in recent times, at least for Stuttgart, such an important moment, an excitable moment. Obviously, as a Man United fan, I've never really been super invested or involved in, say, relegation races and things like that. Although this season, you never know. But yeah, that kind of relief and joy that you get from just being able to be a part of the Bundesliga again next season, it was just such an amazing feeling. Although we had to go through the relegation playoff match the season following. So yeah, that was particularly memorable for me. And then, as I've kind of already half alluded to, last season was just the whole season was just a roller coaster ride of just joy. There was no real down points throughout most of the season. Because there was no European football to worry about. It was just Bundesliga game after Bundesliga game, a great run in the Pokal as well. And like I say, again, coming down to the last game of the season, we already knew we had Champions League footy, but to see us just, dismantle what was already a very broken Gladbach side, and then what happened to Bayern on the last day, they lost to Hoffenheim, I think it was, and then we switched places to come second overall. Such a special end to a spectacularly special season. So those two probably stand out. A couple of 5-1 wins against Dortmund are pretty nice as well, I won't lie, considering they've nabbed a few of our players. But yeah, no, quite a lot of good high moments in the short time that I've been following the club.
So, Rory, I always love to ask, especially Bundesliga supporters of other clubs, this question. How do you feel about us at the club, be honest? And that is by RB Leipzig and the club as a general.
Yeah, no, I mean, for my own personal point of view, as an Englishman, I'm more than fine with Leipzig. As a club, I've never taken any great dislike or distaste towards to Leipzig. Like I say, maybe that is something in the fact that I see the kind of money that's being pumped around into different teams, like in England, where you see smaller teams or smaller areas that get money invested into them. We all know the Ryan Reynolds documentary with Wrexham and things like that, and it's just the norm for us. And I'm sure my co-host Mark, he always reiterates it on our show, like we genuinely don't have a problem with Leipzig. And we've wanted them to do well, and when Bayern were going back to back in terms of title races, very much kind of egging Leipzig on, in a sense where they'd have these good runs, particularly in the Rückrunde and things like that. So from my point of view, I've never had an issue with them. I like what they do a lot around the club. From what I gather from speaking with yourself and other people related to the club, there's a good kind of like family aspect to it, in terms of the families that go to home games and the following as well. So yeah, very much so. No issue with RB Leipzig. Although I might have an issue with them if you give us a beating midweek.
Hopefully not. I am hoping for a decently even game, and it's good to hear a little bit different instead of someone just completely peed, I guess you could say, at how RB Leipzig is and how they've come about and all that type of things. But I'm going to ask you now, going into the preview of the game, and with the upcoming fixture against us, what do you want to see from your team side of view, and what do you expect of us coming into the match?
So it's a big question, really, and I guess we're kind of in the dark in the sense because whilst recording now, we're on the brink of match week 16, whilst the teams have had a break for Christmas, and we're all very excited by the return of it. So we don't know how we've gone in our respective first games back because we have this midweek fixture. So it's quite interesting in that respect to see where both teams are at. I suppose for our point of view, it's just about settling into 2025 with bodies back. So like I already mentioned, having Undav and Labeling back in training is really, really important to what we'll do. It depends how much game time they maybe get on the weekend to see their involvement against Leipzig. But as you kind of foreshadowed the last time that we played you, there was that 5-2 match last January as well. And Undav got a hat trick in that match. So just it goes to show how important he would be. So yeah, from our point of view, we'll need to be attacking well and taking our chances. And it sounds super simple, this, but it kind of is. And I'd definitely like to see a bit more defensive cohesiveness, just as an all-round unit, because Stuttgart generally are a team that will like to press and try and win the ball back. But whilst our defence has been quite chopped and changed, especially over the summer, it has led to some breakdowns and some, more goals being conceded effectively, which against the likes of Sheshko and Golpenda and the likes, Nusa, if you manage to get Xavi on the pitch as well, now that he's on his way back, there's threats all over the place. So kind of, moving on to what I expect from Leipzig. Attacking threat. The aforementioned players, if they're starting 2025 on a fresh note and are all super consistent, then we've got a lot to worry about. I guess it's maybe from a Leipzig point of view, if that doesn't come off, as in if they're not having a good game, obviously you've got maybe, I don't know injury-wise how Leipzig are looking for the game, but you've got the likes of, say, Silva and Poulsen. Silva's obviously a player that you're looking to offload. And then you've obviously just, the news broke today as we're recording about Baku as well. So he'd be an interesting player maybe to see off the bench. I think that's a very smart signing. But because Leipzig do have a young centre to their team and they've got experience as well, I think that's the thing that we've talked about a lot on the show, is just that consistent level. So any given day, we sometimes don't know what we might get from Leipzig.
What players are you going to be most worried about from a Stuttgart point of view from RB Leipzig? So obviously Xavi Simons is the name one, and all the aforementioned players. Is there anyone else that you look at who would probably go under the radar?
I think someone like Nusa particularly could be quite a threat, because you see that kind of directness. He might be playing on the wrong side for a matchup against Mittelstadt, but I just think sometimes Mittelstadt struggles in that direct kind of wing play when a winger will just go at him. He's quite often, Mittelstadt is a good defender, but he has a tendency to just leave the leg in or just dive in and hope that he wins the ball. It does work quite a lot, but if he does that, then the winger's gone. So depending on how Leipzig line up, that'd be interesting to see. Any kind of pace, really, for me right now, the way that we're lining up is quite scary. We have Chase, who's probably the quicker out of the three that we've been playing most centre-back wise, but Chabot and Ruairidh will not be able to keep on an even keel, especially if we play high up the pitch. So that's particularly worrying from my point of view.
What players does RB Leipzig need to worry about from a Stuttgart point of view? Like, obviously, Dennis Undav is one of the big ones, but besides him, who else do we need to be wary of?
Obviously another name that maybe I should have mentioned earlier is probably Mio, the central attacking young Frenchman who's probably one of the young starlets as well that I notably probably missed from when I was talking about star players earlier. He's got such a creative spark to him. He's a player that we look to a lot. When we can get the ball to him, he's a huge threat. I sometimes worry when he plays out wide, say on the right hand side, that we don't get the ball to him enough. And then from a physical point of view, he could also be out-muscled or bullied a little bit in a sense. But when he gets into those little pockets and drops in, gets the ball and can go on the half turn, he's super dangerous and super effective. So, someone like Mio linking up with potentially fit Dennis Undav or even Jamie Laveling, could definitely spell a couple of chances or goals our way.
What is your score predictions and your rough idea of a formation that Stuttgart will be lining up as?
So score prediction, I'll settle on a score draw. I think there's likely to be goals. I will go for 2-2. I would expect, again, from everything that I'm reading, leading up to our first match, which is obviously a trip to Augsburg. It will be same back four pretty much that we've implemented most of the season. The midfield axis though is a slight concern because I'm hearing that Karatsor might miss this weekend. So we'll have to see how he goes. And obviously it's a short turnaround, so he might not get in there. Therefore, we might see someone like Mio drop in and therefore free up a bit of space in attacking areas. But then we might also get a double header of Voltemada and Demirovic, which, Nick Voltemada did exceptionally well for us in the last month before the winter break, and it looks like a really good player as well. I'd be interested to see how he goes. So maybe those two out wide. I'd expect Furyk and Mio, unless they think about putting Wagnerman further forward. But for now, I think that's more or less the team that we'll be able to use.
I agree with you, Rory. I honestly think there's going to be some goals in this one, and it's going to be an entertaining game. I think 3-3 for me. So it's going to be definitely some goals, but I do think there's a draw. Just finishing up, can you please tell the listeners and viewers where they can find you, anything you'd like to plug?
You can find us on YouTube by searching for Over the Bar. We're on pretty much most social media. So we have an Instagram account, which is just Over the Bar. We're on X as well as Over the Bar. We have a Blue Sky account, which is the Bundesliga show. I am on all of it as well if you just search for @Bundesliga Rory. In terms of, we've done a few shows already this week. I did a big 18-team mid-season review last Monday, which is available on podcasts, which was great fun being able to get fan perspectives from pretty much all 18 teams. We nearly got everyone. And obviously, Justin, you were able to contribute to that, which was awesome. So that was great fun as well. But yeah, that's all the plugging I'll do for now.
Not a problem. Anything else you'd like to plug, just let me know and I'll put that in the show notes. Just one last final question, which is always known as the show tradition. Now, not any more the surprise question, as everyone gets told about it in advance. What's one question you'd wish I'd have asked you, and how would you have responded?
The question I've gone with is, what would my expectations be for the rest of the season, and are they maybe too high after such an amazing season last season? And my tentative answer is my expectations have probably been exaggerated because of last season, and therefore I have found myself frustrated at certain results and certain struggles that Stuttgart have had just from a consistent point of view. I don't think we've played football any worse on the pitch. It's just sometimes that cohesiveness is certainly missing. So expectations going forward, would just love to have a settled team for the rest of the season, push up into at least a form of European football, whether it's Conference League or whatever. I just think it'd be nice to have that again next season, just to allow the squad to get used to playing that much football, and to sneak into the next round of the Champions League would be a nice thing to do, and maybe even dump out PSG in the process. That's my kind of tentative look forwards to the rest of the season and what I might expect.
Thank you very much for coming to the show, Rory. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Top man, thanks very much.
If you've liked this guest video and if you've liked listening to this guest on podcast, make sure that you like and or subscribe to the podcast and share it around, and make sure